Welcome to Honest Feedback, a podcast here for you. We are here offering advice on alternative perspectives for whatever is on your heart and mind.
I'm Lisset King, and I'm an emotional ninja. I help leaders release baggage and heal unresolved trauma so they can live and love their life with purpose.
I'm Goddess Brittney King, and I'm a pleasure priestess. I help women connect to their deepest truths, their sensuality, their sexuality, and hold the sacred union of both.
Hi, welcome back to Honest Feedback. Today, we have a very special episode.
Very, very special.
We were the ones with the questions.
I know! We decided, I have a question. And really, it's been plaguing me. Like, where you're just like, how do you ask about this? Who do you ask about this? Google and ChatGPT only have such limited answers when you were wanting to go about the ethereal,
Yeah, we're tapping into some new fields here. And so we have the magnificent, absolutely connected Annelise Cherie, and she's going to school us on channeling.
Yes, I am so excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should we give her a call?
Yeah, but first, take a moment and press subscribe, leave us a comment. It really helps us out, and it spreads the word and the good news so other people can find us. So thank you. Thank you. I so appreciate you doing that. All right, let's give her a ring.
Let's give her a ring. Hi, Annelise.
Hi, guys.
Oh, we're so happy to have you on here today. Annelise is someone who's very dear to my heart. We've been in each other's sphere, circling around, and then I got to spend 2 weeks with her in Peru last summer. And part of that journey was getting private sessions with her. And your sessions have just been so transformative for me, grounding, cannot recommend, call this woman. She's just incredible. Will you tell people in your own words, what is it that you do?
Yeah, so basically, I use different energy modalities to help connect to somebody's central nervous system. So essentially, I first bring somebody into what's known as a parasympathetic state. So a very deep, calm, meditative, relaxed space. Once they get into that space, I start channeling information. So essentially, channeling, if you want to say this, their angels, their guides, ancestors, whatever, higher source of energy is present to help their facilitation and their journey in this life. I also often just say I channel their nervous system. So, just keeping it simple, to just sort of receive insights and information about what is sort of happening in this person's reality, where are their limitations, where are their blocks, what are they doing that they need to do more of? It's not always just looking at the shadow. There's also a lot of, positive reinforcement of good job, keep doing this, do more of this. And basically, I call it alignment healing because the focus isn't just on energy work, right? Which, a lot of practitioners are solely focused on that, which is awesome. I really use a combination of energy work to help the body relax, to help get somebody into a decompressed state, to help somebody learn how to connect deeper to themselves, and also simultaneously receive all those insights I just mentioned. So the first half of the session is more of the energetics, helping somebody connect. The second half is more like talk therapy and mindset coaching. I literally go through every bit of information. It takes 45 minutes to an hour in full detail about what I'm seeing in each chakra point, what the nervous system and your guides are sharing about what's going on, and essentially help with the mental body at that point. So we kind of formulate and redirect your perspectives on how you're emotionally relating to everything in your life. So it's all encompassing. It deals with the mental, emotional body, and also helps cultivate a stronger spiritual connection. So
Just that. That's so good. So I would love to hear, like, how does one even get into this kind of work? Like, were you called? Did you just find yourself in trance? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, depression is what first brought me to the space. My own inability to heal, and honestly, Western approaches failing me. Not that I have anything against it at all. I think there's a time and a place for all of that. It just wasn't what I needed. It wasn't what I was seeking. I didn't even know that I was seeking what I was seeking. That was probably what led me to going down this path. But my first sort of like breakthrough moment with this, where I realized I had these abilities. Well, we all have these abilities, but was able to tap into them was with plant medicine in Peru in 2016. So essentially journeying with the psychoactive medicine, ayahuasca, was my second ever journey in my life. And some crazy things happened. The plant took me through different timelines. I met my niece, who is now a very full formed living human being, 5 years before she was born. Got her name, have it in my journal, exact description of what she looks like. At the time, I actually thought it was my daughter. I didn't realize it was gonna be my niece, but it's my niece, same name and everything. And also it went into the future as well, and showed me, unfortunately and sadly, passing of very important people in my life, my grandma and my aunt, and how that was going to happen. It happened exactly like that, verbatim. So the reason why I share that is it's very important to how I got into this work, because not only, like, I call it a condenser, right? Like something that's so powerful and life altering that there's no debunking the reality of it. And so when I first came back from Peru, I told my mom and my family everything I had seen and, about the future stuff. And then it happened. And the deaths actually began only 3 months after my arrival. So it was pretty quick, the turnover. And it was in that moment where my mind just kind of blew open. And I was like, wait a second. The healing that took place with these plant medicines were not just like metaphors. So what is reality? And if I was able to tap into that stuff months and years before it actually happened, then what the hell is reality? Like nothing that we think is correct. Like it can't be. Mm-hmm. And so I had my mind blown is essentially how I got into it. And I sort of just became, I always say, became like Indiana Jones of the mind, where I just like became obsessed with philosophy and wisdom and just learning all these different principles. And that's essentially what led me to my first mentor, who essentially taught me how to channel and showed me the foundations of what that was through energy work, through mindset coaching, learning how to connect, learning how to receive, all the things. So that's kind of where it began. Long story short, I talk a lot. So
oh, we're here for it. Edge of my seat, girl. That is so good and so profound. And like, I feel a lot of us share this common theme of like, the wound is where the light comes in, and like, it's like I'm a pleasure priestess, and people are like, how did you get into that? It's like deep trauma. And it was how I healed myself and rebuilt the person who is here before you today. It wasn't just like in a college catalog. So like, you get kind of called up to these things to like realize your gifts. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. And I just want to just drop it again. Like, you have changed my life in such a powerful way. Like to receive messages from my guides and like things that I just know to be true. Like, it's like you're reading my journal. And so I cannot recommend you enough to the people. If you feel inspired to call her, it's like, it has been so affirming in my life as well. So yeah. So you have questions?
Yeah, I have questions. I mean, like, taking a page out of the book, we called her. So this podcast episode's a little bit different because these questions are from me or us.
Yeah.
So we went to Egypt and it was prolific. Like the energy, the power, the magnificence, like it just felt like everything was vibrating. And I felt like I've been to other sacred sites before and I wasn't in the place of my journey of really being open to energy. So like I went to Machu Picchu and it was like Machu Picchu. This is a place where like I went and it was just like I could feel and see and feel the waves of energy. And so we were at this temple and it was like a holy temple and like not a lot of people get access to it. And there was this beautiful hieroglyphics of the tree of life. And it was our like closing ceremony after this 2-week experience. And one of the facilitators was leading this deep meditation. We were like going through all the chakras and channeling with the energy of the earth and the elements and da da da. And all of a sudden my eyes just opened and like looked at her. And I was just like, she's going to say your name. And then she was like, and Goddess Brittney, will you close this circle? And then I was just like, heard. And I had been having this issue with my ear all week. Like ever since I had got off the plane, I kept feeling like I couldn't hear. And on a medicine journey on that trip, it came to me, it was like, stop trying to fix your ear. We're literally trying to work on it for you so you can hear. And so then in that temple, I looked at her, I'm like, she's going to say your name. I tilted my head up and literally it just felt like a voice was speaking through me. And I was like, I'm saying words and like I open and close circles often and like never close a circle like this. And it was just like the words coming out of my mouth. I was just like, oh shit, did I just say that? Like, it was just like, I was like, I'm listening, but I'm also speaking, but I'm like listening like, holy moly. Like it was just,
it was different.
It was just different.
I've seen her open and close a lot of circles and it was just different. I was like, damn, like,
yes, it was like, damn. And I was like, I think I just channeled and I feel like I know who it was from. The goddess Sekhmet, she's the goddess of power. And that's just what I felt. And then it was like, after it was just like, I have so many questions. I'm like, was I? Like, am I sure that I know it was her? And like my way of like feeling into the clairs is like, I'm very clear cognizant. Like I just be knowing and that's it. Just be knowing. So that's it. That's my question is like, girl, what happened? What was like, explain to me what I experienced.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, this idea, you said something that stood out to me initially, which is one of the foundations of channeling, which is really simple. I remember the first person that ever taught me how to do this. He's like, it's a pretty simple 2-step formula, but sometimes something that's so simple is so hard. And he goes, to channel, you have to learn how to connect fully and you have to learn how to receive fully. And because to channel is actually the process of receivership. It's getting out of the way. It's getting out of the cognitive mind. It's getting out of the space of control and completely getting into a frequency of allowing. And that's practice. It's something that has to almost be conditioned or trained. And so to kind of speak to what happened to you in that chamber, and I'm just I mean, it is what it is. I hope you guys don't mind.
Tell me.
There might be personal things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it has a lot to do with, you know, it like the irony within it. All right, I'm already dropping into the channel. So basically it's like, you know, you hold this claim in yourself, Goddess Brittney. And it's like you have some understanding of what that means for you. And like right now it's more in this context of like more sensual and physical. So it's sort of like I am a goddess. I embody the feeling and sensation of like being a goddess, but that's only one layer of it. That's more of like the root chakra aspect of you claiming that for yourself. And so I've noticed that this year in general, 2024, it's actually in numerology, the year of karma. The way that I'm seeing it is, and then this connects to your question, this is also the year of like massive leveling up for most people. So it's like you will receive back what you've put out. And I always tell people, like, what is yours can't be taken, but you can absolutely not claim it. And so I feel like this is the year where everything that you've been working towards being is available to you. And so you're kind of going on this ascension right now, elevating up from Goddess Brittney being the space of physicality. Like obviously there's wisdom with physicality, you know, like they're one and the same, but it's sort of this next upgrade of like, no, you got to get up into the higher chakras, the space of receivership, where you are literally like the goddess, like able to channel, to receive fully. Because you have to remember the feminine is the receiver.
Yeah.
So, you know, this isn't like a sexism thing. Like it is sometimes easier for the feminine incarnation to access the channel because we are portals. Like we're connected to it. Like we can literally like pull energies from different dimensions and grow a vessel inside of our body. So we're kind of naturally connected to channeling, being in the feminine body. Of course, all feminine and all people have both feminine and masculine energy. So anybody can do this. It's not limited to, but I just in general feel like for you, Brittney, what happened to you, it's like almost like what I'm hearing is your ego wants to define what happened. It wants to apply meaning to what occurred, and it wants to know how it did it. But that's coming from the prefrontal cortex. That's coming from the space of logic. And channeling is actually a space of like like illogical. It's illogical. Like it comes from the back lobe of the brain. It comes from connection, not from logic. And so, you know, I think for you being in such a sacred space, in the way that they were holding that space, and also the invitation for your life right now, it was like the perfect storm of, you know, storm maybe being a negative. It was just the perfect conditions.
Yeah.
To really start to tap into what being a goddess really means in your highest form, like in its complete totality. If that answers your question, I don't know.
Yes, girl, you're over here raining truth. It speaks and resonates so deeply, particularly around the word goddess. Like, my work is about the divine feminine and receiving, and it's been this journey of like, I had these gifts and they felt sparse and I didn't know how to like put them together, you know? And it's been this awakening because it was a moment I didn't even know how to claim goddess, you know? It was a long time of like being with it, of like, I feel like I have access to these codes. And like, I definitely feel that, like, as I say often right now, my work is really like root sacral, sometimes solar plexus, like really root sacral. And like, that's where I live. And I feel that there is more, and like seeing all the goddesses on the wall and the hieroglyphics and the power and the thing, like there was so much more. And so it definitely felt like this awakening to the power of the feminine that I feel like is moving through this planet. And I feel like I see it and I feel it, and like I definitely feel not alone, of like, I am the one to bring it forth. Like, it definitely feels like it's like a collective vibration that's happening and rising, that more people are stepping into, and or even just opening to receiving the wisdom from.
Well, it's so cool because actually I had a client right before this call, and there was this really amazing message that came in about what you're talking about. Because yes, it is a very global thing. And like I said, the year of karma, 2024, this is the year of like receiving, right? This is the year of like what you put out is about to like take shape and grow into something. And all of these invitations and opportunities are going to be presenting itself. Like when I channel in, that's what I'm seeing. But there's that really famous quote that says, success is a combination of readiness meeting opportunity. And so it's this idea that you've been putting so much energy and work into like embodying, is the word that keeps coming through, like the goddess within you. And it's all been perfect and right on time. But now it's like, it's getting into the receiving component of it, where it's like, what does it mean to fully open up and allow this power into you? And this year being the year of just like, it's here for you if you want it. And that's kind of what it felt like to me, that like the visual I'm seeing is like a little carrot, like dangling above you, where it's like, this is in you. It's available to you if you want it, as many things are going to be for you. And just, it's sort of like just opening up the channels of what's possible and what's already within you. And that's actually something I really want to just quickly say. Like, the other thing with channeling is probably like one of the first principles of it is knowing that you already can. It's not about learning, it's about remembering.
Yeah.
Told you.
It's like everything you're saying. I'm doing an IG live with a friend like in 2 days, all about receiving. Like everything you're saying, I'm like, yep. And I feel this has been deeply in my story. So when I had my Akashic records opened, she was prolific, but she talked to me of literally, she was like, do you have dry skin? And I was just like, yes. And she was like, there's a thing about you and receiving. And like, you've had these past lives, like these really pivotal past lives where right about as you were having almost like a coming of age situation, there would be a massive genocide. And so she's like, there's a trauma around receiving. And like, and I feel like this has been a work, and I feel the initiation calling of like, we're going deeper into this, of where you are or not receiving, and healing that within myself and in the lineage.
I completely agree with that Akashic reader. Energetically, I can feel that there is wounding that's deeper than just like your life, your childhood. Like it's in your cells, like you hold something, and it's not bad. It's I always look at this stuff and just say like, cool, there's your invitation. Like, like that's what you came here to learn. Good for you. It makes like, it doesn't surprise me on any level that one of the things you came here to learn was receivership. And like your life mission up to this point has been about like being a goddess and the full embodiment of the feminine. It's like, yeah, that checks out. Like, it makes sense, So it's I always tell people like, your shadow, your pains, your traumas, it was like we said at the start of this call, they're just your invitations. You apply the meaning, and if you really are wanting, like you can absolutely write whatever narrative around any of that. Does this work for you or against you? Totally up to you.
I have questions.
Yeah.
So I love that you're like, step one is knowing that you can, right? Like knowing that you can channel and everything. And I'm just curious, like, what was step two? How do you practice? What do you like? Because I know this is what you do. Like this is your gig, and you're so good at it. Like, how does one even step into this world and take it on like you did?
Oh, if I can also add a sprinkle on that. Do you feel like you were called to this work, and like, are people called to this work, or is it like certain people shouldn't be doing it? I don't know.
Like two very different path answers.
Yeah.
I actually would love to answer both of them, but I want to start with one because I have a tendency to like totally segue if not. So, okay. So let's focus first on Lisset. Would you restate that question so I have it in the forefront?
Yeah. Of course, yeah. So essentially, like, what is, after you know that it's available to you, what is the next step? How does one move into this as a life path if, you are called to it?
Yeah, so it's pretty layered, honestly. Recounting when I first accessed this, was the first thing was realizing that this is not a career, it's a lifestyle. So in order to literally be a full-time channeler and energy healer and a support for people, it's a lifestyle, not a career. And why I say that, because that means like when I very first started this, it wasn't just about learning how to receive and connect, creating a discipline and meditation, learning how to access different points of the brain, learning how to see in part. So looking into people's bodies, like that was all just like the formulas, learning the foundations of energy. But it was also taking care of the vessel. So, for a time I did become vegan. I'm not anymore, but I needed to clear the body of a lot of energy to just really understand what it felt like to have a clear channel without any debris or toxins in the system. So this is kind of why I say lifestyle. I didn't necessarily have to, but it very much served me. And my mentor recommended it as well. Required up to you. Like, I'm like, go all in, So, I was vegan for a while just to remove the body of impurities. I had to formulate routine and discipline. So it was also like why I go back to lifestyle. You have to have like some sort of routine and organization in how you live if you're going to spend that much time in the upper chakras. It's like, you remember, like, mastery is in balance, right? We know this idea of law of dichotomy. There's always going to be positives and negatives to everything. When you are becoming a channeler and learning how to channel, that is a lot of time in the ether. Like, it's a lot of time in the air element. It's a lot of time like connected up in a higher vibration. So the lifestyle component was like, I had to spend equal amount of time grounding, which meant a lot of hikes, a lot of like very grounding foods, a lot of exercise, all of that stuff. So definitely lifestyle is part of it. Your vessel, like your body is your vessel. Like if you're the conduit, like what are you, like, like you got to make sure that you have a strong conduit, basically a strong vessel. The next thing to that is, like I was just saying, consistency and routine and connection. And I will tell you, this is where people get really tripped up, because to channel is very counterintuitive to how we're programmed in this society. It's like, I got to learn all this stuff and do all these things and learn all these tools and da, 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 da. And it's like, actually with channeling, it's the total opposite. It's like, you need to sit the fuck down and like, literally do nothing for hours and like, just sit with yourself, because that is where you're going to start to understand and learn the difference between your like ego mind, the part of you that separates yourself from the universe, and your higher mind, the part of you that is the universe. And so this is also a great, like, just sort of also like side note with it. People always ask me, like, how did you do that? Like, how did you see all that stuff and these memories and whatever else? The ego is what separates us, you guys. Like, Annelise, Lisset, Brittney, like when we create these identities, there's nothing wrong with it. We're supposed to, but it's what makes us think that you have your memories and your experiences, and I have my memories and my experiences. And of course, like in a certain plane, yes, that is true. But when you really get out of that reality and you get to a higher consciousness, you realize like there's one source of energy that we're all part of and connected to. Therefore, everything that you've experienced is I've experienced and is accessible. Everything. So like, this is why people can channel, can connect, can be psychics. Like, it's just learning how to tap into that higher source of energy and, realizing like everything's in there. It like there's like everything. So yeah, does that answer your question?
100%. Yeah. And you're blowing my mind, because like, so the other day, I was sitting in medicine, and I called you because she's like the person I call now when I'm experiencing medicine. But I remember just turning on my voice recorder, and I started, like, Brittney walked in while I was doing it, and it says, you have to stop eating meat. You have to meditate in silence for and I have this on a recording. You have to meditate in silence for at least 90 minutes a day. And I want you to get off of social media and you need to move your body more. And I'm like, so you're just literally saying everything back to me. And so it's just like, you want to be this big. You want to be this person who's connected to source, because that's for me, my connection to source is everything. And so
too, by the way, your
say,
connection.
Say that again.
Your connection's already very powerful. It's just so you know. So.
Yeah. Thank you. And of course, I'm always looking for that edge. And I asked, and those were the answers that downloaded. And I was like, can you give me a better answer? And it's like, no, this is what you asked for. So it was really comical and cheeky. And so thank you for.
Yeah, no, it's so true, because this is part of it as well, part of channeling. Like, I think of that Stevie Nicks song, like, you know, do you always trust your first initial feeling? So true. Mm-hmm. Because usually the first hit is the truth. And it's quick, though. It comes in like a flash. Yeah. With time and practice, it becomes so much easier to understand. But you said something that made me want to bring this up. Like, most of the reason why people go to coaches and healers and therapists and doctors and all the things is because they're in conflict with their own truth. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, most of the time we do get our own hits. Like, we're like, we 100% get the hit, and we're like in conflict with it. I don't like that answer. Yeah. Have it any different. Like, okay, but how about this? And it's like, they'll go to people and it's okay. It's beautiful. It's by design. It's, you know, it's how we get to rely on each other, which is wonderful. Imagine if we didn't. Like, it'd be a very isolating world. Yeah. But, you know, it's like the biggest issue with channeling is people can sometimes be in conflict with just trusting what's there. And like, you know, I remember the very first session I ever did. I was so nervous. My mentor, of course, was there to like facilitate and watch in case I totally shit the bed. Like, I was so nervous, and I opened up the energy and I, you know, placed my hands on the person. You also don't have to physically do that, as Lisset knows. You can do it remotely, but I put my hands on the person, and you know, I got into that space of receiving and connection. And the very first vision I ever saw when I ever channeled for the first time was this ballerina dancing on what looked like a mirror, and it was cracking. Like, the mirror was literally just like breaking beneath the ballerina's feet. But the ballerina kept in perfect form, and she refused to acknowledge that the floor was breaking out beneath her, and just kept dancing to perfection. And it was the first time that I was channeling. So I was like, the fuck, like, I'm going to sound crazy when I tell this person, like, right, so what I'm seeing is a ballerina dancing on glass. Like, it's like, I'm going to sound like an insane person. But instead of going into that, you know, naysayer, logical, cognitive self, I was like, follow the principles, trust what is there. This is here for a reason. So I finished the session and I'm like, so it's like, I saw this image, and like, before I could even finish telling her, she just starts crying her eyes out. And I was like, okay, so this means something to you. And she goes, yeah. She's like, this is how my life feels. She's like, I just feel like I'm always trying to maintain this perfect discipline and form, but my life is breaking out underneath me, and I'm just in such conflict with it. And in that moment, I started to realize, like, for me, Brittney, you said earlier that you're like kinesthetic knowing, like, you just get knowing. With channeling, you learn how to use all of them. So it's like you get the visual, you get the auditory, and the knowing. I don't really get like smells. But like, I started to realize, much like dream interpretation, and for those listening, if you don't know, I'm sorry, channeling is really similar. Like, we're going into the dream space. Yeah. And so it's like, sometimes if like an image comes in, it doesn't have to be literal.
Mhm.
It's like, figure out what it means to you, even less to the person. Like, figure out what those images mean to you, and it's going to help you understand, like, what is the message. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Gosh.
So good. Okay, so like going into my question, it's like, so are there people who like shouldn't channel, or like it's not recommended? Like, how do you know if it's like I'm being called to channel? Like, yes, I guess my question is like, how do you know if you're being called to channel? And then I've seen other people where they're like, I channel like Bashar, or I channel this deity. Like, were those people like chosen and it's like they only channel that person, or lots
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because, like, how I was taught was that much of what I was saying earlier, like, there's one source of energy that we're all connected to and part of. And so it's sort of the metaphor that I use is like, are you channeling the heart, or are you channeling the knee? Are you, looking at the elbow, or are you looking at the foot? Like, it's all part of the same body. It's just different functions within a singular system. And the way that my mentor taught me was really more about like bypassing all of these separations and genuinely just connecting to this, like, the source of energy, like, the source of the highest light, essentially. That's how I was taught. Now, I do know people, and a really good friend of mine who like channels angels, and like I know people that specifically channel deities, all of that. It's not really like my area of expertise on how that happens. I've also encountered some people that are like really hardcore with that, where it's like, you have to know exactly who you're channeling. And it's like, sure, like, but like, if I am very congruent that I am channeling the highest form of light, I know who I'm channeling.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's like not a who.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it is absolutely real. I know lots of people that definitely can channel in. It's also with mediums and psychics, like they can tap into, certain spirits and things. It's always very real. It's just not my area of expertise. Like for me, just to give you some context, like I've been doing this for about 8 years. And I always say these prayers that, set up the space, are very intentional about what I'm connecting into and channeling, which is always just the light and the highest form, and like your higher counsel, your angels, basically all of the things that are there to support you. All right. I think I just want to call it your high counsel. Okay. So with that being said, when I work on over the last 8 years, like I've had people's grandmas come in. I've had spirits come in of, relatives, ancestors. I've also had moments where like goddesses have come into the space, or certain energies have come into the space. And really, like, for me, like how I use this energy and how I intend to use it is for your healing. And so it's like whatever needs to come into that space to help you, like, is welcome. Does that make sense? And so, like, it's not so much that like I'm gonna sit down and channel Kali, right? Like, it's like I'm gonna sit down and create a sacred space for you to receive, that which is of the light and of the highest vibration, that is service to you, and whatever that may be, like it is allowed in this space if it has right integrity for you. So yeah, like that's kind of like, I might not be the best person to ask as far as like how to channel specific beings and things. If it's part of your healing, the way that I've learned, they're just going to show up. Like, they're just going to be there. And that's the best way I can answer that. And as far as people, should they or should they not, it all comes down to intention and integrity. These are, I got this message a long time ago, and it's so true. It's like, the true test of a man is who he becomes when he awakens to the power of the universe. Because this is a huge responsibility. holding these skills and these abilities, we all have them, but to make a lifestyle out of it and to make a career out of it additionally, like, you have got to be in integrity and proper intention. So if you're doing this like to look cool, or doing this to gain power, or doing this to like whatever, probably not the best path. You're gonna get some pretty hard lessons, like, because this path, it's about, like, to be a channeler and in the healing space means that, guess what? It's your life. Every day you are going to have to, like, if you step out of alignment, and I have played around with this, you guys have, like, I'm like, okay, but like, what if, like, I just did this anyway? Like, swear to God, like, awkward. Like, all of a sudden I'll start getting all these cancellations, and like all this shit will happen, and or like I'll get sick and I'm not able to hold space and I'll have to cancel. I've played around with it. Be absolutely firm in my stance that those who don't wish to like be in a space of constantly learning and growing, I mean, it is like constant. Okay. Life is anyways, but like you're awake to it. You can't hide it all in this space. Like, if you're holding space and you're channeling and connecting in, like, it just expedites things so aggressively, because you're like, I can't deny anything that's happening in myself. Like, it's like constant. So just, if you're not wanting to like constantly be in that space of like, oh God, okay, gotta keep going, gotta keep going, gotta keep, whatever, this probably isn't for you. If you're doing it for ego-driven reasons, probably isn't for you. And that's really it. Like, I don't really see any other reason, since this is part of our function as a human being. Like, everyone can do this. So it's just a matter of, that quote, this is what's coming to mind, that quote, we are more afraid of our light than we are our darkness.
Marianne Williamson.
Yeah. So that's what comes to mind, where it's like, to do this work, you are choosing to be connected to the light, which means you are in a constant illumination of both your shadow and your light. And, Slocum, one of the facilitators at Amara's Spirit, the place that Lisette and I spent in the summer together, the very first time I went down there, I mean, I didn't even know what a chakra was, just to give you some context. That's how much I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I remember he came to me when I was in my tobacco dieta, the very first one I ever did. And he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, Annelise." He's like this crazy dude. What's that nose? Yeah. And like Popeye, that's visual context. He looks at me and he's like, "Don't you get it?" And I was like, "Get what?" And he's like, "You ever heard that saying, like, as above, so below?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You can only go as high as you're capable, Annelise, and you can go high." And he's like, "If you are willing to go into the darkness in its full totality." And he was like, "They have to maintain balance, and one cannot exist without the other." And I was like, ah. But he was right. And I believe very much it was because I hadn't learned how to channel yet at that point. And so it was such an incredible gift that he gave me, because going into learning how to channel with that understanding made me realize, like, whoa, to channel means that you live in the middle line. Understand the darkness as much as you understand the light. And like, you will hold that. And so like, it's not so like you can channel the darkness. It's just that sometimes you do have to go in there to learn things. And like, that was one of my big learnings on ayahuasca, was just this idea, like, again, as above, so below, but she gave me the actual experience of it, where she was like, you can't always live in love and light. So that's another thing with channeling and who this is for and who this is not for. Like, you can't always just live in the magic of this. Like, we live in a world of duality, and sometimes we have to go down into the underbelly to learn very important things. And Eckhart Tolle is the one that says, he who is in a nightmare is far greater to awaken than he who is in a dream. And sometimes the most important things are actually found down there. And it's, you know, not labeling it as good or bad, evil, wrong, nor is it labeling it as like amazing, positive, holy, right. You know, it's like, it's both. And thank God for that. Because how are we to ever understand heat if we don't understand, if we didn't have cold? You know, it's like they serve each other. Yeah. So it's like, it's realizing like you have to be willing to align yourself with truth, and truth is a full circle. Yeah.
Dropping truth bombs on us.
No, it's so good. It's so good. All right. I have one other question. It might be a little amateur hour, but like, what's the difference between a channel, a medium, and a psychic?
Very, very good. Let me tune into that question.
Cool.
What is the difference between a channel, a medium, and a psychic? It's how they use the same source of energy. So it's basically what the difference between like an angel and a witch is. Okay. So not that one's good or bad, it's just the intention behind it. So basically, like a psychic uses the same channel essentially, but for predictability. So it's like helping you essentially like see down the path. It's like channeling into the future. Its main objective is like really about like essentially like helping you see the future, essentially. A medium is somebody who is using the source of energy to channel spirits. So it's more intentional. It's very specific on talking to, you know, the energies that exist in that quantum reality, essentially. So again, all pulling from the same place. It's just the intention behind it is modulating the use of it. And then a channeling is literally just about receivership. Like it's genuinely like, I don't necessarily have an agenda. Like I'm sitting down and, you know, for me personally, just based off for me, channeling is about just receiving the whole picture. Like it's just receiving the whole thing. And like what is, you know, what is needed in this space. So like I use the channel, I go in with the intention, like literally I ask like to please help illuminate the highest path of love, healing, knowing, and wisdom for this individual. So it's like that's how I use it. I feel like that's what the main difference is between those things.
Yeah.
So good.
When she does that.
Yeah.
Hands down, I can, yes. 5 stars, 10 out of 10 will do again.
I did kind of have like a lifestyle question for you before you go. So like, it's a lifestyle. Does that mean like you're kind of getting messages just like nonstop? Do you just like hold them? Do you, do you tell people? Is it like, I mean, like, how do you, how do you play with that?
Well, you know, it was actually Dr. Patrick Scott, Puna, Hawaii. For those of you who are listening, it's a school that all 3 of us have been to. He was the psychologist that the first time I met him, that dude like half nearly beeline to me and was just like, some people need to learn how to turn it up. It's like, some people need to learn how to turn it down. And he was like, you need to turn it down. And he was like, you don't need to be channeling 24/7. And I was like, oh, I cannot, like, what do you mean? Like, it's just how my brain works. And to be honest with you, like, it really just before he helped me understand it, and it really just came down to grounding, and then also like sort of like a pattern disrupt, stop. like this is not, we're not doing that right now. And just with practice, like I'm definitely not I'm absolutely not reading other people and just walking around channeling stuff for random people all the time. However, I do leave that open in myself pretty regular, consistent. Like I can't seem to like switch it off for me. And it's it's like constant. Like, you know, there's like infinite amount of information that comes through. And again, this is why I say, if I don't take care of my vessel, if I disregard like exercise, sleep, who I'm spending time with, the conversations I'm engaging with, the content and media I'm digesting, like it's a full lifestyle change. When I started to learn how to channel, I literally cannot watch scary movies or heavy content anymore at all. Like, cannot. And it's like, I can't even like sometimes be in the same room as it, because it's like I think part of it is like you start to understand and realize like, man, just about everything you can think of is real. So it's like, really, life is just about like energy. And that means it's just about experience, which means it's really just about what you're connecting to.
Yeah.
And I like when you attune and train the nervous system and the mind to be in a space of channeling, when you watch a horror movie or a scary movie, guess what? You're like channeling that shit and you're experiencing it on a whole other level. Like, I was like the first time, like the first scary movie I tried to watch after learning how to channel was Hereditary.
Oh.
And I was like literally out of my mind. But it was cool because it actually sent me down a rabbit hole where I was like, what the fuck just happened to me? Because it was like so intense. Remember, like, to be a channeler means you are dialed in, like you feel everything. And so it actually taught me a lot about neurocinematics, which is really cool. You guys should look into that. It's the psychology behind movies and how it impacts the unconscious mind and the nervous system. So I like I said, I go on massive tangents, please excuse me. But yeah, lifestyle, you just have to like, you just have to be like, brain, we're not doing this right now.
Yeah. Something I learned when I took an Akashic Records course, it was like this very much of like a ceremonial opening and closing. And so, and like, she came from a lineage of people who read. So she was like, my grandma would bang pots. And it was literally like this thing of like, we're literally telling the energy, like, we're done now. So, yeah, I loved that.
No, it's true. You know, it's so cool. We know this, but I like have to mention it, right? Because like Huna came years after I had been doing this work already. So like I was pretty familiar with energy and channeling and all that well before I went to Huna. But the things that I learned in Huna honestly were like the same things, but just with different symbols and different meanings and different like you know, like yeah, just different figures to explain the unexplainable. And if you look at just belief systems in general and all religion and everything, like it's all really referencing the same things. We just, the separation is in like the idols and the symbols that we use to explain the same thing. But we all know there's positive and negative. You know, we all know that there's like a source of energy, like however we want to explain that, it's all the same. So yes, the Akashic reading is exact same. You're opening and you're closing. Like it's the same thing with channeling. You open it up and you close it down. So
wow, you're so good. This has been just brilliant. How do we find you?
Okay. Yeah, I am currently developing a 6-week program that will be a channeling course, basically, and it's going to go through this whole process. As far as the launch date, it's not a confirmed date yet because I am starting this amazing sisterhood thing, so I just need to play around with the time of that, but it is in the works. In the meantime, if you want to stay connected, my socials are just Annelise Cherie, Cherie. And that's the same on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. So if you want to, you know, stay up to date with just these little nuggets of videos that I'm constantly putting up, if you want to book with me, annelisemindset@gmail.com, or you can also DM me on any of these platforms. And yeah, if you follow me, then you shall know and be the first to know when the channeling course is up and running. So.
Yay. Absolutely.
So happy to have you on, just shooting the shit.
Oh, this has been so fun. Let's do this all the time.
Yes, yes. And thank you for letting us know where to find you. We'll definitely put all the information to find her in the show notes, because if you want to be in this channeling class, and you do,
with us,
we're here for learning. Get your booties in line. So I'm so excited, and thank you so much for taking your time to share your personal experience and your wealth of knowledge and wisdom. We and our whole community, thank you so much.
Course. Thank you so much for having me. This was really special, and I love what you girls are doing. So yeah, thank you.
Yay. Okay, bye.
Right?
Oh my goddess.
Did I not tell you?
I am beyond. I am beyond. I mean, that was incredible. I feel like she just explained so many things that I just wasn't getting. Also, I felt like I was like she was like, I hope it's not too personal. It's like, thank you for my reading. Thank you for telling me what happened in Egypt.
Yeah.
Woo! God, the pleasure palace is going to get some upgrades with receiving. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Just like, first of all, the fact that she channeled on the air.
I know.
She's like, you mind if we're like, no, go ahead. And also just like the wealth of knowledge and information, as well as not a lot of information, like it just understanding that this is not something it's not a skill you can learn. Mm-hmm. It's something that you open up to. Yeah. And so I'm really excited for her course.
I'm super excited for her course. So if you're interested in booking a session with her and joining us in a course, who loves to learn?
We do.
Like check out her links in the bio below in the show notes. That was just incredible. There was just so much wisdom in what she was sharing. It was just, woo.
The girl's tapped in.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, every time I get off the phone with her, I'm like, how the hell, what?
And like, just knowing that like we all have access to this. That was so powerful of like, it's something you open up to, and realizing how many of us might have just shut it down because it didn't feel safe, or like it was scary, or like your parents are like, no, you don't hear a voice. Yeah. And you're like, okay. Yeah. Bye, Bob. Like, they said you're not real.
They said you're not real, so now I don't believe.
Now I don't believe.
Skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. So it's just so grateful to have her on the air. Mm-hmm. And if you have a question for us, give us a ring at 971-895-4111, or you could send us a text if you're not wanting to have your voice there. Or you could slide into our Instagram direct message and let us know how we can serve you.
Mm-hmm. And until we meet again, be honest with each other.
Yeah.